It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Thursday afternoon on the road once again, but taking a break from the Palmetto Pigskin Tour per se, though we are doing college football in the state tonight with our good friends here at the Citadel as we come to you tonight from Patriots Point Golf Links in Mount Pleasant, right by Charleston Harbor. Really a very, very fun golf course. We are here for the 20th annual Citadel Brigadier Foundation Kickoff Classic. Our good friend Rod Stalvey, who is hanging it up as the head man of the Classic after 20 years, after bringing this thing to life and growing it. They raise more than $100,000 per year for the Citadel Brigadier Foundation with this event, and we're always happy to be here. We've never missed one. All 20 of them we have attended, and we have broadcast from wherever they have done it, and we are here at Patriots Point tonight. The new AD at the Citadel, Mike Capaccio, will join us in just a few minutes. We also expect to talk with Citadel football coach Brent Thompson when he gets here from practice. Plus today, Dabo Sweeney, Tigers at a scrimmage. We'll hear from him. Gamecock coach Mike Peterson, tight ends coach Mike Peterson. We'll chat with him as well tonight here on Sports Talk. Mike Moore going to be along, and the money coach as well. So we have got a jam-packed show for you. And guys, Will Pelagic and Professor Tom Hayes back in Columbia. Couple of really big recruiting events taking place over the last 24 hours. You go back to last night, Josiah James from right here in Charleston at Porter Gaud, one of the nation's elite basketball prospects, knocked his list down to 4. Clemson is on that list. USC is not. We'll talk about that. And then today, the USC football team picked up a terrific commitment in the defensive back DJ Daniel out of Georgia Military College, considered to be the best cornerback in the junior college ranks in the country. So good for Clemson basketball. They also, the Tigers football team missed on Colby Wooden when he committed to Auburn today. So good for Clemson basketball, not for Clemson football. Bad for USC basketball, but good for USC football. That kind of sums it up.
It balances out, at least in that regard, though. I know that USC basketball fans will be sore about the fact that another in-state prospect kind of goes by the wayside, but I'll take it in reverse and start with USC football. You know, I almost wonder if Will Muschamp will try to get a waiver to get Daniel in here right away, I say sarcastically, because, of course, he needs to conclude his final year of eligibility there at the junior college level. But this is something that will address a significant need, not just now for the Gamecocks, but in the future, because of the fact that both Rashad Fenton and Keyshawn Nixon will be graduating beyond this year, as will Nick Harvey. So they'll need to replenish that secondary right away. And Daniel is somebody who could come in and play right away from the cornerback position, and certainly helps the Gamecocks. Somebody who is probably one of the best man coverage guys you can get amongst people who are ready to play. But as for Josiah James, it's good news for Clemson, although, you know, when you look at the company they're keeping with James, the only thing that Clemson boasts is the fact that they are close to home. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, you're dealing with blue blood programs, bro.
Well, you almost get the feeling that I'm getting this feeling where I see green when I hear his name. That means he'll go to his dad's alma mater, Michigan State. Maybe. True. I'm not sure. The only thing we have not brought into this equation when we see some of the guys passing on South Carolina, I find it quite interesting that a lot of these kids and people say I'm be coming out of left field, but I notice Frank gets out-of-state kids who've gone to Under Armour camps, mm-hmm. and a lot of these kids play for AEU teams or go to camps that wear the Nike swoosh. Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of amazing how that comes up?
Seems very much pointing to kind of the FBI stuff. And obviously when you think about the way that the college basketball world kind of got turned on its head last November, you wonder if that's going to change, Corn.
Well, in-state recruiting. And by the way, let me correct something. Mike Peterson is outside linebackers coach, not tight ends coach.
Yeah.
So
and defensive ends.
Sure I got that right.
And defensive ends and Bucks, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of something else. But anyway, it's in-state recruiting for South Carolina Gamecock basketball right now is nothing short of embarrassing. I mean, go back to missing the guys in the 2018 class that they wanted and got 0. And now you look at the in-state class. Trey Hannibal, yes, good player, committed. Thinking was he might help with Josiah James, his AAU teammate, did not. Not going to get the big man from Ridgeview, Malcolm Wilson. He's not. They're not in his final 3. Not going to get the forward out of Lower Richland. They're not on his short list. Did not get the kid in the backyard, Jawan Gary, who committed to Alabama. Poor, just very, very poor. And I don't know if it's because, kids in your own state, in your own town, they watch your program every day. They read about you, the good and the bad. And I wonder if really with today's kids, those who are up close to Frank Martin, even though when he's away from the court in the locker room, dealing with the media, with the public, he's really a sweetheart of a guy. But I'm not so sure his on-the-court antics and style of coaching, which is what he has, made his career on, is not a turnoff to some of these kids who see it all the time on the highlights and see the games every time they're on here in South Carolina.
Corn, this is not on South Carolina. I mean, any coach that's been at South Carolina for the past 20 years, kids have left the state. So I'm not so certain that it's the cool thing to leave out of state, especially when kids, in my mind.
But when a kid's considering Clemson in state and not you, Pro, and they were,
I think that's
every kid I mentioned in state is looking at Clemson.
Let me put it to you this way.
Not looking at South Carolina.
I was jarred by the Zion Williamson thing, and I'm not trying to compare the two situations because they're unique and they're different, but I almost feel like in the same way, Zion kind of courteously did Clemson as a courtesy. I think this could be along the same lines. I'm not trying to purport exactly what the young man's thinking because I have no idea. But the fact of the matter is, the other part of this that you don't understand, at least from where we're trying to analyze this, somehow, some way, there's a poisoning of the well when it comes to South Carolina, whether it's influencers in these guys' minds, in these guys' lives. There's something that has poisoned the well. I don't think it's Frank. I think it's something that's a lot deeper. Because, again, remember a lot of the conversation that we've seen around some of these guys and some of the people who are kind of influencers on the social media and things of that nature who are saying things about South Carolina and some of the history involving that. In my mind, I think that there are some other factors at play here. But at the other side, too, I don't really know how deeply Frank cares about where the players come from because he just wants players who want to be at South Carolina. And if you don't want to be there, then he's not going to waste his time on you.
Yeah, especially when you see two guys.
You can't keep losing top
it's nothing,
50, 75
it's nothing
players
you can
from your
do,
own
Corn,
state.
because if kids who only 2 or 3 years or only a couple of years ago see 2 South Carolina kids lead the team to the Final Four, and you still don't want to come. That's not on the school. That's not on the coach.
The best players in the state of South Carolina who have had
such a cop out. That is such an absolute. You cannot give them a pass. Okay, you cannot give them a pass. Either they have to look at how they're recruiting in state, or who's doing the in state recruiting. Or what the message is, but you cannot continue to give a coaching staff a pass for missing time and time and time and time again.
But where have they got
top talent in state?
But think about this, Corn. What have this quote unquote top talent? What have they gone and done elsewhere? They've done jack squat. So at this point, who do you care about? What do you care about what you're losing? Not that you necessarily have anything to back it up with as far as wins from say last year, but you do have a Final Four, like Pro said, in your back pocket from a couple of years ago.
Yes, there's no doubting that, and they're not building on it. That's part of my reason for pointing this out. They have not taken advantage of the fact that they did have South Carolina kids on their team when they did go to a Final Four. That should be a benefit for them, and it's turning out not to be for whatever reason.
That's why it's on the kids, not on the coaching staff, in my opinion.
All right, well, I think you're wrong. When we come back, the new athletics director at the Citadel will join us from here in Charleston. Back in a moment.
Beef short.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
And we're back, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, and what's turning out to be a beautiful afternoon here along Charleston Harbor at Patriots Point. We had some storms kind of go around us, which is typical for this time of year in this part of Charleston. So we're glad we avoided the lightning and the rain, and they're getting the golf tournament in, and it's turning out to be a very, very nice day. And joining us for the first time, because it's the first full day of his new job at the Citadel, Mike Capaccio, named yesterday as the new athletic director with the Bulldogs. So he has been involved with the Citadel for a number of years. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're an old basketball guy.
I'm an old basketball guy. I'm an old basketball coach, and a lot of stories, a lot of history with that. So
we were just talking off the air. You're from Chicago.
Yes, sir.
And you've coached junior college basketball. You've coached other levels of basketball. You know Frank Martin pretty well.
Yes, Coach Martin. Yeah, old Bobby Huggins' disciple. So Coach Huggins is a good friend of mine. We go way back. Way back. So I've known him for a long time. We sent several kids from Indian Hills to play for Coach Huggins at Cincinnati.
And so when you were at Indian Hills, you recruited Buddy Harper out of the Columbia area.
He came a little bit after me, but we had a lot of kids. I had Travis Robbins out of Clover, South Carolina, that came and played for me. And then we were up in the North Carolina area, Concord and the Charlotte and High Point area. But I started coming out here, even though our home recruiting base was Chicago and Detroit, Milwaukee. So, and we loved the kids. They were very athletic. They were very easy to coach. So we had a little bit different change of scenery.
And you started your basketball career at Wisconsin.
As a preferred walk-on, we had a new coach came in. He sat 5 of us down and said, "You 5 go find someplace else to play." So I stayed at the university, but I attended the community college there, and Madison College was very fortunate, made it in the Hall of Fame there, and then went on and played at a division school.
Hall of Fame, that's great.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It wasn't what I maybe dreamed of. I wasn't good enough to play anyway, so let's be honest about it.
Right. Well, let's talk about your new job. Obviously, having been working at the Citadel, 7 years, I think it is?
It'd be 7 years in yes, sir.
So you know everything that's going on. You know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what are you stepping into?
Well, this is not an easy job. When you look at the mid-majors like us, the financial situation that we're addressing, it's brutal. And, we're not like the big schools that get the TV contracts and things like that. We are scraping. Our fans are very, very generous, and they do a great job donating to us. So that's a very, very positive thing. We've got a great administration. We got a great new president, our interim president, General Sams right now, and then General Walters coming down the road. And after meeting with him yesterday, I was really excited and made this decision, was really ready to move forward with the institution and with our athletic department. So, but just a lot of challenges. We have to have a certain type of young man. We just can't go out and start recruiting. It's just smaller to start with. And what I really want to do is embrace what we have and make that as a positive and push that and say, look at what we do have, not what we don't have. Because a lot of schools look and, I don't have this. And a lot of times that's an excuse. And we can't do that for our institution.
So as the process was playing out, did you think it would end up coming to you?
Absolutely not.
You were surprised.
I was very surprised, and I'll make this a short story, but I had just come back. My mother was ill. I was up in Chicago for 2 weeks, got back the next day and on Monday, and I got a call from the president's office that said, "We want you to come over." I said, "Okay, well, I'm in trouble already. I haven't been back on campus for 1 hour. Okay, This is great." So General Sam said, "I want you to take this interim job right now." And I said, "Well, let me talk to my boss that I already have, and you're going to be into this." And he followed up with, "Why haven't you applied for this job?" And I was like, "Well, sir, I really hadn't thought about it." He goes, "This is your job. You know all the donors. You know all the people. You know where the bodies are buried. You know what's going good. You know what's going wrong. We need you to help step into this." Well, I was kind of taken back. On my way back to the office, the Parker search firm called me and said, "We want you to apply." And, of course, I told them I know how search firms work, and I'm not on your list. I'm not in your pipeline. I'm not paying you a fee, so you're not hiring me. So, and that's okay. Had some circumstances with my family, so just sent a cover letter. Wasn't very thorough, didn't answer any questions or anything. So made it to the final 12, made it to the final 5, and met with General Walters yesterday, and he offered me the position about a half hour later.
Wow.
So this thing went in 3 weeks from not really even thinking about it to my focus has been raising money for the institution, working in the foundation, raising money for athletic fundraising. And we've had a lot of success, and we've done some really good things, but we need to keep going.
Well, obviously, an AD's job today, a lot of that is about raising the money. But at some point in time, you're going to have to deal with coaching situations, student-athlete situations. How do you feel you're cut out to handle that?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I really feel good about our coaching staffs. In all areas, from women's soccer, our new volleyball coach. I think our football, basketball, and baseball coach are very solid. I like the things they're doing. The most important thing, as you know, is to fit in with the core. That's what our college is all about. That's what the Citadel is all about. So they've done a good job of buying into that. And with Captain Peluso helping us out, the commandant, I think that relationship's gotten a lot better, and I really feel good about what's going on with them. I think that they're going to be making progress, and I feel good about our coaching staff. So right now, I think that's one of our solid parts. We've got some external things that we need to work on. We have some internal things that we need to work on. And my role will be different than the last two athletic directors here. I will be doing more fundraising. I will be working with the foundation and going out with my pipeline of donors that I've established over 6 years. And it's what I told them, what can I do to help this institution move forward? If I can't give up this pipeline. A lot of our people are our top donors. So everybody is in agreement on how we're going to tweak this thing. I will hire somebody to help me with the internal operations and the day-to-day things, which will give me an opportunity to get out of the minutia and get out and do some of the things that we need to do, which is raise money.
Absolutely.
Mike, looking at obviously the job that you step into, it's a loaded question, but whether it's something involving college athletics or just something specific to Citadel, what do you think is the biggest challenge you'll have to overcome?
Well, right now, funding. Like I said earlier, the schools like us, we struggle with that. I think this is very important that we manage our budget, and we spend a lot of time with that. And people sometimes make the mistake of, we're going to sell enough tickets and we're going to fundraise our way out of this, and that's not how it's going to happen. So the management of the internal budget is really important to get us sound. Then when we talk about those other things, we can take those and use them for different things. But not to help balance the budget. So the funding is always a problem with people like us. Our scholarship bill goes up every year. And the Citadel has a wonderful group of alumni, great group of donors. They are very generous, and we are very fortunate that they support the school as strongly as they do.
When you look at fundraising and, of course, attracting the student athlete, and knowing the uniqueness of your institution, can you still utilize one of the great places in the country that tourists love to visit in your efforts to get more fundraising?
Absolutely. And that's what we do. People love the Charleston area. They come back. And, then again, talking earlier, our recruiting base is a little bit smaller than most people. We have to target a certain individual. But I think it's very important at the Citadel that we sell and promote what we do have. We have a great location. We have a great campus. We have, honor, duty, and respect. We have a lot of things that we stand for. And instead of looking like, at things we don't have, we need to be positive about that and promote the things that we do have to help us move forward. But again, remember, we have to have a certain type of young man or woman. And that shrinks the recruiting base. I love listening to you guys talk about recruiting because I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But, so it limits your number. And so our coaches have to make better choices.
Sure.
I mean, they have to do more homework.
All right, real quick, got about 45 seconds.
Okay.
You got a football stadium issue still,
Yes.
right? You got to fix one side of it?
Yes, we and right now, what we are doing is we are moving forward. We will start the new turf for that project as soon as the football season's over this year. Then we will investigate moving forward with the new stands and things like that. We have a plan that we need to work through still a little bit, but we are moving forward with that project. Unfortunately, because of working with the state and some of the timelines, that doesn't happen overnight.
Sure.
So we're still trying to push things through upstate to get where we need to be. So even if we were ready to move forward today, it probably wouldn't happen until that time. But we will be putting our new sod, our new turf in, starting as soon as the season's over.
Very good. Listen, good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Hope it's a smooth ride and you can focus on raising funds and not raising Cain about other things, huh?
Absolutely.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much.
You look like a basketball player. What, 6'5", 6'6", small forward?
Well, I used to be 6'5". My son said my pants are dragging on the ground, so I was 6'3.5" now. I guess I lost 2 inches. So.
It happens to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Now, we got to get used to saying the name. I've got it written down here because I'm not very good at new names and hard names. Mike Capaccio. Am I close enough? Very good. We thank you for joining us, new AD, here at the Citadel. Back in a moment.
loaded on a Thursday edition of Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Willie P., Philly Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes here with you. A lot to get to. We're going to hear from Dabo Sweeney here before the end of the first hour. Very good day for Kelly Bryant and Clemson's final scrimmage of the fall. More, of course, on the recruiting windfall for USC, and for the basketball, though not so much. Clemson got some good news today, which we'll share for you. We might get back into that discussion we were having earlier, because I still think that there's some conflict that needs to be I would say sorted out between the three of us. But now it's time to check in with our friend Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move for a Thursday. It's brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, their mortgage team more equipped than ever to help you with the mortgage process, whether buying or refinancing. Visit foundersfcu.com/mortgage. And by BP Skinner Clothiers, the best suits, shirts, pants, and shoes are available to you from Brent Skinner. Visit his location in the Vista, and no matter where you are, Brent will come to you. Visit bpskinnerclothiers.com to set up an appointment, Corn. And of course, things that we'll talk about with Mike too, or what we saw last night in Atlanta.
Oh, for sure, for sure. One thing I want to mention is that the PGA tournament, Brandt Snedeker shot a 59 today. And when I think of Mike Morgan, I think of the number 59. So I wanted to get that in as we go to Mike. So don't ask me why I made that up. It's just on the top of my head. So the Braves had a little dust up last night with the Marlins. What's your take on how that went down?
My take is pretty simple. It's completely unjustified. There's no bad blood between these two teams. The Marlins are just as irrelevant with the Braves as they are with the other 28 Major League Baseball teams. There's no incident that led up to this. And Ronald Acuna, for those that haven't seen him play, he's an exciting young player, one of the more exciting ones in the game, could be the National League Rookie of the Year. He's a lot of things, but he's not a hot dog. He's not a guy who pimps home runs and shows up pitchers, has no track record of that whatsoever. So the only reason to do this is because my guess is it was talked about in the meetings before the game. Hey, look, this guy's red hot. He's very comfortable at the plate. Don't be afraid to pitch inside. And that's fine. That's part of the game. But on the first pitch to rifle one in at 97 miles an hour, there's just no reason for that. There's no cause for that in the game. And unfortunately, it took away from what could have been a great moment. Fortunately, the X-rays were negative, and it doesn't appear that anything is broken. But can imagine if Acuna did break a bone and he's out 6 to 8 weeks in a pennant chase for the Braves, all because a mid-range pitcher on a below-average team decided, hey, I don't like the fact that this kid's hitting a lot of home runs. I'm going to beam him on the first pitch of the game. There's no need for it. I know what old school baseball is, and that's not old school baseball.
To me, though, Mike, it just seems that, guys like Don Drysdale would roll around in their graves. And I know Bob Gibson's not dead, so he's not rolling over in his grave. But, I think about the way the game used to be played, and this stuff was commonplace. I mean, I know that a lot of that doesn't happen anymore, and it's frowned upon. But, in my mind, they just did not want him to get that home run by any means necessary.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand pitching inside and having a handle on the inside of the plate, but with all due respect to Bob Gibson and Don Drysdale, I don't know if they would have made a habit out of doing this. Now, if you showed up one of those guys, you were taking one in the ear hole the next time at bat. This was the first batter of the game. I don't think Don Drysdale and Bob Gibson, particularly the way the game is umpired now, if you notice, Urena got ejected right after that. So I think they would have been smart enough to not pitch for one batter in the entire game when you're going to get ejected for that. It was obviously deliberate. And the other point about that is, Will, is that the game has evolved. We need to stop clinging to the unwritten rules and the way it used to be played 100 years ago. There's no motivation to do that now. Or again, a team that has nothing to accomplish, a pitcher that has nothing to prove in particular, against a guy who has done nothing out there but gone and played the game the right way. Pitching inside is fine. You want to dust them off a little bit, go right ahead. But to throw 97 on a ball you clearly can't get out of the way of, and a ball that's potentially going to break a bone and knock a guy out for a while. I don't think that's the way the game needs to be played at this point, and I'm not sure if even that's the way that we would have celebrated it 30 years ago. I think a lot of things have changed, and I think in this situation there was nothing that would have led up to that other than I just want to prove a point that I'm not afraid to pitch inside. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and hit the guy.
You saw where Urena got a 6-game suspension.
Yeah, I expected that. Yeah, that's basically one start. So you hurt your team on the day of the game, and then you hurt your team in the future of the game, in the future of the season, rather, for the Marlins. Not that they care because they're not playing for anything anyway. It's kind of been a joke of a franchise now for decades. But anyway, I mean, look, this might all sound like sour grapes as a guy who used to work for the Braves and still wishes them well. But I see it in the college game every now and then too, in games that I call. And I think we need to change the mindset. To me, it's moronic to think that this is a smart move or this is all part of gamesmanship. I just think it's silliness, and it's something that over time will be frowned upon more and more and looked at as like a bush league play, as opposed to, well, that's the way the game used to be played. I don't think that's looked at that way anymore. Now, look, if Acuna hits a bomb and takes a sweet time rounding the bases and takes a look at the pitcher and shows him up, I get it. Go ahead, knock him down, hit him, do what you got to do. But none of that led up to this whatsoever.
Well, Mike, the interesting thing when I look at this guy, and it's becoming cliche that, players nowadays can't possibly live up to the hype. But we've been hearing about this kid, and we say he can't be that good. Your mind is just telling this. But what he's doing, in my mind, to me, being a baseball fan for so many years, it's scary. What do you see that he sees about his reflex? It seems that off-speed pitches don't throw him off. He's not just a fastball hitter. This kid looks like one of the most natural hitters I've seen since Clemente.
He's just an advanced hitter. Now, he went through a slump. Look, he got humbled there for a while. He started off hot, and then like even 10-year Major League All-Stars do, he went through a major slump. Was not hitting for power, was not hitting at all. And that's when you start hearing whispers of, well, did they bring him up too soon? Did they finally get a book on Acuna, and now they know how to pitch him, and therefore that's his kryptonite. But then now you're seeing again just how special and raw that talent is, where it's coming back. And much like pitchers have adjusted to him, he's adjusted to pitchers. He is a guy that's got all the tools. He is a guy that certainly has the potential to be a perennial all-star. And I hate saying that because he's so young, and it's a lot of pressure for a kid who's in his rookie season. But there's no doubt he's a special talent. He hit at every level, single A, double A, triple A. You don't just do that on accident. I know it's the minor leagues, but when you continually hit 300 at every spot you've been, that's typically a sign of a guy who's going to be able to do well at the major league level, and he's certainly done that.
Real quick, Mike, wanted to get some football to you, but we've only got about 45 seconds left with you. The Will Muschamp comments from Saturday regarding DJ Durkin, the Maryland fiasco up there, and the Heat's reaction to what Muschamp had to say. You think Muschamp stepped out of bounds in any particular way? What's your take on what he had to say? And I'm only leaving you about 30 seconds.
Well, because it's a short amount of time, I'll put it this way. I have no problem with ESPN's reporting, and I have no problem with Will Muschamp taking up for a guy that he knows well that might not necessarily have had anything directly to do with this young man's death. And I think at some point, if you're going to be on in a day and age of everybody's got to have a hot take and a super strong reaction to everything right away, maybe we ought to take a little bit deeper look into what exactly happened and what was Durkin's responsibility or what was his involvement in this in total. Because I have a big problem with what happened after this young man suffered a heat stroke. I think Maryland's completely liable, but I don't know exactly what DJ Durkin did to lead up to that point.
All right, Mike. Thank you, my friend. Great stuff. We'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Plenty to still get to here on a Thursday edition of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Your phone calls, 800-956-7266, will come when we can squeeze a couple in. Right now, we do want to give you Clemson's practice report from earlier today. Today was their final intra-squad scrimmage of fall camp. They only have a couple more practices before they actually start school and start talking about game week. They are going to do a light practice tomorrow, and that will go into kind of why they're doing that in his comments coming up here. But another good day for the quarterbacks, and one in particular stood out.
Quarterbacks had another good day. It was I felt bad for Chase on a couple of situations. Just he probably didn't have his best day, but that's the world we live in. Everybody's booing the quarterback when he walks off the field, but heck, you got a guy who missed assignment up front and gets hit, and then you got a receiver runs the wrong route, so you throw an interception. You throw the ball right where it's supposed to be. The receiver runs the wrong route. It's an interception. Everybody's booing the quarterback. So I felt a little bad for him today, and then he made a great third down throw that was dropped. So it was just kind of that type of day for Chase. But I thought Kelly probably had his best day. He had a great day. Multiple touchdown throws. A really, really good day. And Trevor had a good day. Missed a few things, but it's pretty solid all day. I thought he executed the 2-minute very well. Tomorrow's going to be awesome. I think we came through today healthy, but tomorrow will be. We got meetings today or tonight. We'll get a little break, come back for dinner. We'll have a couple hours of meetings tonight to really go through and clean up the tape. And then back over here in the morning, team meeting, special teams, segment meetings. And then tomorrow we're going to have more of a mental practice, kind of slow it down, and no physical, no pads or anything like that. And then we're going to give them off Saturday and Sunday. So first time in the history of my 29 years of college football that be twiddling my thumbs on Saturday and Sunday. So, but I think it's great. They changed the practices from 29 to 25. And the way we did our schedule, I could have waited and brought them in later and all that. But the way we did our schedule was, and meet with our guys was, hey, we've been going 17 straight days. Let's go and let's grind. And we're going to take Saturday and Sunday. I think when we get back in here Monday morning, these guys are going to be bouncing.
We don't know if any of us will be here when that happens, but how excited are you about that series with LSU that's coming up?
Oh, man, yeah. If I'm here, then life is good. I hope I'm here. When that's 25, man, hopefully the good Lord will allow me to see that. That'd be awesome. But I think it's great. I think one of the things that I made a concerted effort with when I got the job, literally, I remember vividly having the conversation with Terry Don. I'm like, Terry Don, I know we're not very good right now, but we need to play people because that's going to help me teach. And that's going to help me develop the culture and the mindset that you have to win at the highest level. Because I didn't think we had that. And so, that's what we've committed to. And that's what we've done for 9 years. Y'all know we played Auburn 4 times. We played Georgia twice. We played Notre Dame. That's 7. And now we got Texas A&M twice. So we're playing 10 Power 5 schools a year. And I think Ross was telling me, yesterday, the last 3 years, I think we got 34 wins versus Power 5 opponents, the most than anybody in the country. And so that has allowed us to develop a program. And so, we played LSU in the bowl game. And so got a lot of respect for that program. But, the Battle of the Death Valleys, down the road, got a long way to go before then, but hopefully we'll make it.
And one of the other things Dabo added after that, Corn, was that because the question came up about neutral site games, and of course that's been talked about here with Georgia with the openings in the year 2021 and 2024. The one thing he did say is that he does not want to play a neutral site game at the expense of giving up a potential home game. They want to keep the integrity of being able to have 7 home games at Clemson because of what that means there, and the fact that it means stuff for recruiting and also for the community at large. But he says that they will not give up a 7th home game for a chance to play a neutral site game or a road game in that year.
Makes sense. You're packing the place now, so you make a ton more money with those home games, I guess, unless somebody comes up with a huge game in one of these preseason games and throws a Brinks truckload of money at you. And I think you just go ahead and stick with your 7 home games. Of course, you could do that and still get your 7 home games in as well. That would be in a perfect world. So
yes.
Sounds to me like Kelly Bryant, we continue to hear coming out of these scrimmages just how much better he looks scrimmage for scrimmage. And sounds to me like he's had that lead in the competition and he's not giving it up.
This is the best case scenario for Clemson because I think if you're going to have to be pressured to play Trevor Lawrence right off the bat, I think that would have been the worst case scenario. Now, if Trevor had just lit the world on fire and there was nothing that Kelly could do to overtake him, that's one thing. But the fact that Kelly is still playing well and that he is shown out and he's having his best day here at the start of week number 3 going into the final 16 days before game day, that can only mean good news for Clemson going forward.
All right, let's give you the recruiting report because it was a busy day in recruiting as it pertains to things around here. First in football, defensive back DJ Daniel from Georgia Military announced this afternoon a commitment to USC over Georgia and Kentucky. That surprised a lot of people who follow the recruiting game. But last night, if you listen to us talk about our conversation with him, I think we said that South Carolina was in this thing, and don't be shocked if he picked South Carolina, though I didn't know it last night, but I feel coming off the conversation, a couple of things. Number one, the fact that he talked to me so late in the process, close to his announcement, knowing that I'm from the state of South Carolina, well, that's always an indicator for the team in your state that a player is considering. And then, two, his decision that he was not going to have a video done by a Georgia website and was going to have an announcement at his school. That, too, was a flag going up for me that South Carolina had a better than average chance to get this guy. So he's considered the best corner in junior college football. So a guy that can come in and help South Carolina out right away because of the corners they'll be losing following this season. And South Carolina eyed him early, offered him before any other Power 5 teams did, continued to recruit him very hard right up until the very end, and that paid off as they pick him up. That gives the Gamecocks 20 new people in the class. You have to count a couple of people who've transferred. That gives them 20 in the class, and he is the first corner to commit. And the Gamecocks are hopeful of picking up another corner tomorrow night when Cam Smith of Westwood makes his commitment announcement, and we'll see how that goes tomorrow night. But certainly it looks like South Carolina's in good shape to get him. Clemson did not get defensive end Colby Wooden, Lawrenceville, Georgia. He committed to Auburn today. Offensive lineman Darius Washington of Pensacola, Florida, a Mississippi State commit, has now set his official visit to USC for September 7th, the Georgia weekend. He'd already set visits to Mississippi State on the 28th of September and Miami on October 5th. Those are the only other schools he's considering. So it's going to be tough, he said, to pull him away from Mississippi State, but he'll take his visits and he'll see how it goes. Now, last night, the state's top basketball prospect in the 19 class announced his Final Four schools. 6'6" Josiah James of Portugal told Frankie Mansfield of the Moultrie News he'll take officials to Clemson, Duke, Michigan State, and Tennessee. USC was on that list of 9 before he cut it to 4. Kansas, Virginia, Arizona, Florida State also were cut. James told Mansfield he'll visit Clemson, Tennessee, and Duke in that order in September. Then Michigan State, his father's alma mater, in October, signed in November. His coach, John Pearson, told us last night it's a great list of schools, and he's happy for him. He admits that he was surprised that South Carolina was left off the list because South Carolina had recruited him very hard. The Gamecocks have a commitment from his AAU teammate Trey Hannibal. He said he thought Carolina did a great job getting to know the kid and the family, but for whatever reason, he did not include South Carolina on his final list, so Clemson will get a shot at him. And Clemson is hosting for an official visit 6'3" Chase Hunter of Atlanta. We have verified through Samad Hines that it is an official visit starting today. Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, are the other schools, along with Michigan State and Virginia, that he is considering. All right, it's top of the hour here on Sports Talk. We'll be back.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Second hour of Sports Talk on this Thursday night. It's been a busy, busy show and much to do. We come to you tonight from the 20th Annual Citadel Brigadier Foundation Kickoff Classic. We thank Rod Stalvey once again for including us. We've been at all 20 of these, I think. I don't think I've missed any. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great chance to rub elbows with Citadel fans. These folks are, of course, very passionate about their athletic program, their football team. They love to get together and hear from the coaches. Right now, there's a cookout going on. They feed these folks well, kind of a shrimp and barbecue dinner kind of thing. So they've come off the golf course. Nobody has brought me anything, so I don't think my team came away a winner today, though playing with Dr. Bill Phillips and his buddies once again is always a hoot, listening to their various war stories from their days at the Citadel. So coming up here on Sports Talk, we'll have the money coach with us, also USC defensive ends coach, Bucks coach, outside linebackers coach, Mike Peterson. We'll hear from him from the Gamecocks practice today. Let's go to John in Rock Hill. He's up next with us here on Sports Talk. Hello, John.
Hey, how y'all? Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of calmed down since, the incident with Arena and him hitting Acuna last night, which, by the way, is completely, whatever word you want to use, is completely, I guess the best word to use would be cowardly by him, by Arena. And, I'm just trying to figure out still, almost 24 hours later, what the heck did he accomplish by hitting him? I mean, thank goodness Acuna's in the lineup tonight. And
here's what he accomplished, John. Here's what he accomplished. That he didn't get the record off of him. That's what he accomplished.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Miami's not playing for anything, so I don't.
It's a personal pride thing.
Look at
he had been wearing them out.
That's not our fault. That's not Acuna's fault. That's bad pitching. That's bad pitching. It's been a bad team for all year long.
That's baseball, man. That's how baseball works. Baseball has a way of policing itself.
Yeah. I hate that it happened because of the injury factor and all that and the skirmish that followed. But you're right, Will. I mean, this, and I know Mike's position was it's time to do away with these these old rules, that way of thinking about baseball. And you hit the nail on the head. Baseball has always policed itself on the field like that. And, when a guy gets hot and he's hitting all those home runs, and did he hot dog at some at all? Did he spin a bat? Did he toss a bat in a funny way? Did he stand and watch, do anything like that?
He didn't do anything like that.
Maybe he didn't, but maybe they took it that way. Who knows? Maybe they just wanted him to back out of the box a little bit and not sit in there as comfortably as he had been.
Well, I will say this. Sometimes something happens that's unfortunate, but sometimes we take a bonfire and then make an inferno. Phil, when I got home, I had some other things I had to do, and I turned the broadcast on late. The way they were talking, and I told Will this afternoon, I thought he got beamed in the head, the way they were talking. It's almost like it was a eulogy. And I'm saying, what did he get beamed in the head? And then when I saw the throw, I said, okay, yeah, that was a little bit rough, but it wasn't the beam shot I thought he took.
Yeah, it's the weirdest. I think back to, and I hated it in the moment as a Met fan, but I think about when Roger Clemens hit Mike Piazza. He hit Mike Piazza. He didn't mean to hit him in the head, but he hit Mike Piazza because he had homered 5 times previously against him. When a guy wears you out, you got to chill him down. That's what happens. This is baseball. Again, he did not mean to injure him. I would have liked the pitch to go on the fanny, but I'm sorry. That's the way baseball works. If you don't like it, tough noogies. Am I wrong?
Thank you for the phone call. No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, listen, I'm a believer in
I was very curious to see how you would react to this, and I like that we're on the same side of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a believer in old-fashioned baseball, policing yourself. You know, guys getting payback. It's like racing. You know, you wreck a guy in April in a race, okay, you take him out of a chance to win. He might not get you the next time around, the next 5 times around, but he doesn't forget. And later in the season, he's going to get his chance to punch you. And in baseball, it's the same way. You talk about a pitcher who's had a hard time with a particular hitter who's worn out. Yeah, he sends a message. I'd prefer him not to get hit. I don't want to see any player get hit in an area, you know, where he could be injured. You're right. Hit him in the thigh, hit him in the back of hit him in the rear end if you can, whatever. But that's the way it is in baseball. I don't want to see him change it. They've changed so much baseball. I hate to see this new era of baseball players do away with that kind of stuff.
Go ahead, Pro.
No, I was about to say, I mean, and then the science of pitching, if I'm seeing what Acuna's doing, I may throw him an off-speed pitch down at his knees. I mean, if he's thinking about pitching.
Back him off the plate, something.
You know, yeah.
That's the thing. And to say that it's not the Braves' fault or Braves fans' fault or not Acuna's fault that he got hit, you know, I'm sorry. I'm ruthless when it comes to this stuff. And again, like I said, as a Met fan, it ticked me to high hell when Mike Piazza got hit in the head against Roger Clemens, and I wanted to see Roger get hit as hard as possible. They didn't even hit him. They threw it behind him, but they also got the ultimate justice in the end. Sean Estes, the opposing pitcher, not only homered off Clemens the first time he pitched at Shea Stadium, but then Piazza homered right after them. So that is how you get revenge.
Well, then again, the last 2 years the Braves been through, they ought to be happy they got a player that somebody wants to throw at.
That's the other part of it.
Frankly.
That's the other part of it.
All right, thanks for your phone call, 800-956-7266. I do want to update what's happening at the Wyndham Championship up the road from us here in South Carolina in Greensboro, because this is the last opportunity to get into the playoffs, the last regular season tournament, as it were. And Brandt Snedeker, my goodness, it is so weird to see this, a 59, 11 under par for him, and that gives him a 4-shot lead on Ryan Moore and also John Oda. That's the top of the leaderboard. As far as folks from South Carolina, there's quite a few in the tournament. Jonathan Bird, 6 under 64. You know, you shoot a 64, you think you're going to have the lead, and you're 5 shots back.
That's sad.
Sam Saunders shot a 66. That's 4 under. Tommy Gainey, 2 gloves. Good to see him back. 67 for Tommy. He's 3 under. Russell Henley, a 68. He's 2 under. Wesley Bryan, who has had his struggles this year, as you know, a 68, he's 2 under. Scott Brown, a 68's 2 under. Doc Redman trying to improve his bank account in his rookie year, a 68, he's 2 under. William McGirt, a 69, is 1 under. Bill Haas, a 69, is 1 under. Kyle Thompson, who was with us the other night, a 72 for him, he's 2 over. And Matt Atkins, a 72, is also 2 over par.
I'll give you an example from your own baseball. Remember when Pedro threw at both Jeter and Soriano and had them both in the hospital in the same game? But I'm sure you had mad respect for Pedro.
No, I hated him.
Oh, come on.
Because we were his daddy.
You had to.
We were his daddy. He admitted we were his daddy. And no, I didn't appreciate it one damn bit, to be quite honest with you.
Come on.
But I do understand. I understand the unwritten rules of baseball. Of course I do. And that's the way the game is played. I mean, it's, you know, I'm trying to think. I mean, little things that always happen around baseball, like when a catcher gets stung behind the plate, you know, takes a foul ball off the chin or something. You know, the umpire will come out and he'll dust off home plate. He might even walk halfway to the mound to give the catcher a chance to get the bees out of his ears. And little things like that are done in baseball that people don't really notice. And it's the same thing with this action on the field. It's a payback thing sometimes, or it's a warning, or it's a, hey, you're not going to get us this time kind of thing.
And the other thing, too, that, you know, Pro kind of alluded to this a little bit, but Braves have been so exciting. This is probably the most we've talked baseball in the month of August in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, well, they haven't been any good for the last, 4 or 5 years, maybe?
Well, you know,
and they said, listen, they said when they went through their wholesale changes and they started, you know, the new park, that they would be competitive again within a few years. Nobody thought it was going to happen this year, guys, but it has.
You could say they've made baseball great again in Atlanta. Too much? Too much?
Yes. You
could say that.
We'll be back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
More of your phone calls as we continue here on Sports Talk 800-956-7266. Do want to get back into this discussion about in-state basketball recruiting because I do still think that there is some more meat on that bone. I also have some more phone calls on the Acuna beaning, but Corn, we have a Locked On Gamecocks podcast to promote here.
Indeed, our good friend Keith Allsep joins us to give us the latest on the latest Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. Keith, a lot of good stuff happening South Carolina way on the football side that you guys, I know, are talking about today.
No doubt about it, Phil. Big-time commitment today, really kind of unexpected from DJ Daniel, the junior college cornerback from Georgia Military Academy, picking South Carolina over the Georgia Bulldogs, and kind of another notch in Will Muschamp's belt of beating the Bulldogs head-to-head on players. Daniel joins Jemias Williams, Josh Vann, J.J. Enigbare, Rick Sandage, and in-state, five-star defensive end Zach Pickens chose South Carolina over Georgia. Really, Clemson was a distant third in that one. So it's big news. We broke that down, that commitment, what it means for the 2019 class and beyond today on the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. And honestly, we expect more good news tomorrow night there in Columbia for the Gamecocks as Cameron Smith should make his announcement tomorrow night. That could be another big-time pickup for the Gamecocks in the secondary.
Yes, indeed it would, and that recruiting class is taking shape and looking really good. Before we let you go, on the flip of that, your reaction to what's happening with Gamecock basketball recruiting in state, a big deal to you or not?
Still, it is a big deal, and here's why. Is going all the way back, you have to go back really to the ACC championship team in the early 1970s when the best players on the team when South Carolina was good was not from South Carolina. You look, even the last NCAA appearances, all the best players were from South Carolina. The Final Four run, the best two players were from the state of South Carolina. Now, Frank Martin does have Trey Hannibal, point guard from Hartsville, committed. But, it's not just losing a guy here or there to North Carolina or Duke. Now you've got Tennessee, you've got Alabama coming into the state and picking off elite players. And, we had dubbed this the summer of Frank, and I thought that this 2019 recruiting class in the state would be kind of a big determining factor in his future at South Carolina. And I didn't really expect him to get Josiah James. I always thought he would go to a blue blood program like a Duke or a Michigan State.
Yeah.
But, losing Juwan Gary to Alabama when Avery Johnson didn't even bother to come to Columbia to watch him play or even make an in-home visit before the kid committed. I mean, even with Deion Buffet potentially, being a factor in that recruitment, that's still just not a really good look for Frank Martin and South Carolina. And quite frankly, Brad Brownell and Clemson, is not much of a factor with in-state players either. And that's really a part of the AAU culture, and hopefully some of the changes that are going to be instituted by USA Basketball and the NCAA will take a lot of these street agents and some of the undesirables that have permeated AAU basketball for over 20 years now. They need to get some of those guys out of the recruiting process.
Very good. Where can people get your podcast?
Well, Phil, you can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, the Stitcher app, SoundCloud, anywhere you can get podcasts. Just search for Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. And it's available, and we'll have 2 more episodes coming next week, a lot to break down with coaches and players' comments on both sides of the ball. And a lot of newcomers are making some noise at South Carolina. I think Will Muschamp really had an outstanding class. And one last tidbit I'll leave you with, Phil, and I'm sure you like
Sure.
this because I know how much you love the guys that rank players, is, discussing the Bulldog bump. In the state of Georgia, those guys in the recruiting industry, they have a lot of say on the rankings. And when Georgia offers a kid early, that kid tends to get the Bulldog bump. DJ Daniels' ranking was going up because everybody thought he was going to Georgia. So now he may get the Bulldog hump instead of the Bulldog bump since he committed the Gamecock.
That's great. Hey, listen, Keith, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you for your good stuff, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, you got it, guys. Take care.
I don't mean to feel like
right.
I'm putting a dissenting viewpoint on this whole thing, but since you brought it up, Corn, I mean, it just – it
He's
doesn't,
right. He makes a great point.
It doesn't matter where they come from.
But you're not getting great players out of your state.
But they're not. They're going
going
elsewhere and doing nothing.
Great players in your state. Well, look, Seventh Woods, he's been hurt. Okay, he's had a injury-riddled career. They are hoping that this is going to be the year.
Would you rather him have an injury-riddled career at South Carolina?
Well, I mean, injuries happen anywhere, but nobody's going to, say that Seventh Woods is not a terrific talent. Okay, and it's becoming, first it's a drip, drip here, one here, one there. And I'm focusing on South Carolina here. Okay. We're talking about South Carolina. The 18 class and the 19 class are bonanza classes in the state of South Carolina. We're not a great basketball state. And when we have those years, when we have really good, high-powered players that all the big schools want, that the blue bloods want, the in-state schools need to get it done. Hey, listen, Clemson is not immune from this criticism either. I mean, they haven't done a great job keeping players in-state either, though they have a couple on their roster now. But the point is, with this 2019 class, South Carolina, outside of Trey Hannibal, is going to get nothing. And Clemson, they may not get any of them either, but at least they're getting them to visit.
I'm telling you,
South Carolina can't even get it to come for official visit. Now, it could be South Carolina's choice. Maybe they don't like Christian Brown at Lower Ridgeland. Maybe they don't like Malcolm Wilson. Okay, Georgetown likes him. Clemson likes him. Other big-time programs like them, but that's a decision they make as coaches. So if that's the decision they make to pass on these guys because they think they have better elsewhere, then they have to live with that.
I don't know. I don't want to steal Pro's thunder, but you made a prescient point about this during the break.
Well, no,
what kind of point?
No,
a prescient point.
No, it's just that I remember when they had when they were asking him about recruiting. Maybe that's when he had his spring presser or whatever, talking about Frank Martin. He said, we brought Lanzo Frank down here from New Jersey, and he looked over our facility and stuff and said, wow, yeah, I got all this here. Wow. And then, we bring an in-state kid in, have their parents here and everything. They see the same thing and whatever. And it doesn't, hey, it is what it is. It doesn't wow them.
For some reason, this campus, when it comes to its basketball recruiting, it's more impressive if you're not from here. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a thing. And you throw in the fact that apparently it seems like there is someone who has poisoned the well in South Carolina and is doing some negative recruiting against Frank Martin. And you know what? Maybe he just as soon not deal with it and go get players elsewhere. I mean, A.J. Lawson, would you not say that A.J. Lawson is a player who could come in here and have an immediate impact for South Carolina? He's not even from this country. As long as you get players, then you can
A.J. Lawson looks like a good player. He does look like a good player for sure. But would you rather have had well, of course, he's coming in this class. You'd love to have an A.J. Lawson, but that doesn't make up for the fact that you're not going to – Alabama came in, and Keith is exactly right. Alabama came in and took Juwan Gary out of this state. That should not happen, okay? I'm sorry. Tennessee is on the short list with Josiah James,
maybe
and
Frank,
not South Carolina. I can understand Michigan State. I can understand Clemson. I can understand Duke. Listen, Rick Barnes is a great coach and all that kind of stuff. I know they recruited him early, but so did South Carolina, and there's no reason that they come in and get a spot in South Carolina. It does not. It makes no sense to me.
Again, as long as you can get players, I don't care if they're playing.
A.J. Lawson's family is from South Carolina.
I understand.
His dad and all right here from Columbia, so that worked in their favor.
I'm just saying, you get players.
He might be a great player.
Maybe it did work in their favor. He said,
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. As we continue here on a Thursday, please turn into your hymnals to the part of the program where we discuss the money. As the money coach, Fran Halloran, joins us here now. Corn.
Indeed, indeed. Good to have the money coach with us here on Sports Talk as we also begin a new high school football season in South Carolina. There's just a couple of games tonight, but there are a bunch for week 0 Friday night, tomorrow night, all across the state. And, of course, high school football, big money machine for all our schools in our state. We hope making money for the schools, the school districts, etc. Coach Halloran, a former high school football coach, knows good and well the business side of high school football from the big schools to the smaller schools. Correct, Coach?
No doubt about it, Phil. Good evening to you all. I would be a liar if I didn't say it was one of the things that as a head football coach I worried about until I knew exactly what the gate receipts were after the game on Friday night. Win, lose, or draw, myself and the AD had a conversation after the game about the gate. We needed to know how much money we brought in. We needed to understand whether or not that game was going to be, whether the gate receipts were going to be enough to keep us ahead of the budget, if you will. In a small program like I was the head coach of at Andrews High School down in Georgetown County, those gate receipts were a huge part of our football budget. And very much like college programs, if there was any excess in the football gate receipts and the money that football made during the year, playoff runs, etc., we had to share that with other programs. And that is the nature of the beast at just about every high school, but especially at the small schools. But it's an exciting time of year. Never really understood the whole week 0 thing, to be honest with you. Hey, I don't know why this can't be week 1 and there be an 11th week, but I guess we just have to have week 0, right?
Indeed, indeed. Let me ask you this before you go on to other stuff, talking about those gate receipts at a place like Andrews, and, of course, you've worked bigger schools like Richland Northeast in Columbia. I mean, what's considered at a school the size of Andrews, what's considered a good night at the gate, which would support the program? And then you look at, say, a Spring Valley or Richland Northeast, what would be considered a good night there?
Well, I can tell you that when I was the head coach at Andrews, we got very excited if we had $5,000 to $6,000 a gate. That meant at $5 a ticket, we had 1,000 people in the stands. That was a huge night for us. Am I doing the math right there? Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, $5 a person, 1,000 people. Right? You're talking about $5,000. We were thrilled with that. It didn't happen very often. More often than not, it was $3,000, $4,000. But, you know, in small town South Carolina, the town the size of Andrews, if you could get 800 to 1,000 people to close down their businesses early, to give up whatever else they wanted to do to come to the ball game on Friday night, that was a big deal. And so we were thrilled when we could get a $4,000 to $5,000 gate. That was a lot of money. And every so often, a homecoming game, a big rivalry game, you might get an $8,000 to a $10,000 gate. And man, oh man, was that a happy evening? Win, lose, or draw. I'm sorry, but win, lose, or draw. Those gate receipts mattered. They matter all over small town South Carolina. Now,
yeah,
we got the Northeast a little bit. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's why you still see, you know, matchups that maybe on paper shouldn't be played, old rivalries, as one school's gotten so much bigger than the other, but they still need to play because it is a rivalry game. It's a big gate game. And even though one team knows that they're going to get clobbered, especially when they're hosting that particular year, it's a big gate and they need that money.
Well, let me put it to you this way. My first gig coaching back in the early 90s was at Gilbert High School. And we were not very good when we first started. We got better and better and better. And then my 5th or 6th year there, we ended up 9-3, had a really good quarterback, John Muller, who went off to play at Charleston Southern. We had some good athletes. These kids just figured it out. It took us 4 or 5 years to get there. We played Batesburg-Leesville every single year because it was a gate thing for both of us. Everybody in Gilbert showed up. Everybody in Batesburg-Leesville showed up wherever that game was. We got the snot beat out of us pretty much every single year. We knew it was going to happen, but we needed them to come back to us the next year. We needed that gate money. So your point is well taken. Now, when we got to Northeast, playing at Harry Perone is a whole different beast back then. You know, 500 or 600 people at a game at Richland Northeast, that's a disappointment beyond disappointments. Yeah. We were very fortunate when we played at Harry Perone. We might have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people come out there and support us, especially if we were playing Spring Valley or Ridgeview at the time. Blythewood didn't exist back then, but those gates were big. And if I'm not mistaken, you'd have to check with my good buddy Tim Hunter over at Spring Valley, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of those games, since we shared that stadium, there was some sharing of the gate receipts between Richland Northeast and Spring Valley back then. So, but there's no doubt about it. Small town football, small town sports, they need those gate revenues.
Do you sense that high school football in South Carolina is still a good draw? I mean, I know there's some pockets, upstate in particular. Is it picking up in the Midlands area, in the Low Country? What do you sense around the state in terms of fan support for high school football these days?
I think fan support for high school football is still as good as it has always been in those little communities, right? But it's getting tougher and tougher. The larger communities, for instance, I live in Lexington. Lexington County now has a bunch of schools. Lexington 1 school district has a bunch of schools. When it was just Lexington High School and Gilbert High School and River Bluff wasn't here, you got a lot of people to those Lexington High School games, the Gilbert games, because it was really the only game in town. Now there's so many more opportunities. I think we see some of the fan bases getting diluted. And then again, there are a lot of people who move into towns like Lexington, areas of the other parts of the Midlands, like the Lakewood area. They don't have any interest in high school football right now because their kids aren't in school or their kids are out of school. Those people are not going to games. So I think in the small communities, there's always going to be a great deal of interest. But I think it's waning a bit with all of the new population that's come to South Carolina. South Carolina is growing like crazy. And a lot of folks who moved here, they're not interested in high school football.
All right, last thing, we'll let you go. I remember when this first came out, I think Pro could probably remember the shows, and we talked about it. I complain about anything that's new. And when they started televising high school football, I said, and it was one game a year. And then it became 2. And I said, you know what? This is not a good thing. I'm telling you, it's going to explode, and you're going to see it everywhere. And, now we're seeing more and more high school football on television, more than just ESPN. Other networks are doing it, local TVs, et cetera, et cetera. I've never thought televising local high school football was any good for anybody. What do you think?
I don't like it one bit. It creates prima donnas. It's created prima donnas in football and in basketball. And, to y'all's point earlier about Coach Martin and the basketball team, Coach Martin doesn't want prima donnas. And prima donnas seem to be what we find a lot in South Carolina because they get a lot of attention, whether it's basketball or football. I never wanted a prima donna. Don't get me wrong. Everybody likes a hardworking kid who might have some talent, but televising high school sports has created a monster, a golem, if you will. Everybody thinks they're the next thing, and so they suit up accordingly, and they got to look pretty. Let me tell you something. Football is not about looking pretty. It's about getting out there and blocking and tackling and winning. That's all it's about. It's not about prima donnas. So, no, I'm not a fan of high school football being televised. Not at all.
Give your number real quick so folks can reach you.
888-779-2557. We're here to get you on the road to financial freedom. Y'all have a great evening.
You too. A winner, the money coach, with us here on Sports Talk. We're going to hear from the Gamecocks, Mike Peterson, when we come back here on Sports Talk.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Our last day to view the Gamecocks in practice was today. We will not see the Gamecocks on a football field until September 1st.
Did you have fun watching them stretch their little hamstrings and do their little calisthenics?
No.
Everything?
No, I didn't.
I tell you, with some of the stuff that was written the other day out in great detail, I'm a little surprised that they didn't shut it down.
Well, they basically did today, yeah. Corn. I'm not naive. I seem to think that there was a significant button up on what they were planning to do in front of the viewable period of practice.
Did they get you guys out there earlier?
They didn't, but they did a whole lot of nothing. Yeah. Not of individual drills, nothing that you would even consider to be a team. They did punting. They did do punting. There was punting against air without a cover, and there was a lot of individual drills, a lot of work on the sled. But no, the only thing we ever saw the skill position guys do was catch punts and do pursuit drills for footballs. So we didn't learn much today. We did have a couple of guys in yellow. JT eBay at safety, as same goes for Jalen Dickerson. Eldridge Thompson also in yellow in a non-contact jersey, as well as Ben Asbury, the long snapper, Recindo Lewis, also in yellow. But got a chance to talk today to a man who wears a lot of hats, outside linebackers coach, as well as Bucks and defensive ends coach Mike Peterson, talking to him about trying to generate a better pass rush, something the Gamecocks had in basically one player, but they need to get a more diverse pass rush all across the board.
Oh, it looks good. DJ Warner's been rushing the pass good. Bryson, even some of the younger guys. You got Danny Fennell there. Aaron Sterling, he's another one. So we got a number of guys that can rush the passer. So that's going to be a big emphasis this year. Third down, we got to get after the quarterback.
This defensive end may be one of the deepest positions on this team. It seems like you got a lot of options.
Well, we got a lot of options. I don't know if it's the deepest. I think we may be deeper than some of the other positions, just because some of the guys are. You got one of them. You got Danny Fennell, who can also play defensive end. Sterling, Shamik. Some of those guys have played some football here. So I'm excited about it, and the flexibility part is probably the best. You can move them around. They can, we can drop Bryson, we can rush Bryson, we can drop Warnham. So that's encouraging.
Does that help with your pass rush, being able to rotate and run guys in like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Later in the game, you get later in the season, you're going to need all those guys. And I tell them, don't get caught up in who's going out there first. What matters is who's out there at the end, because we're gonna need all those guys.
What do you see philosophically with having like a special pass rush package, not just with the DNs, but maybe some D tackles who are better pass rushers, especially in obvious pass situations?
Oh, that's always, you always got to have that package. That's where Shamik Blackshear can come in. He can move him inside. Guy that plays with a lot of energy. Tough guy. Good size. Can get in there and hold his own against the run if they do happen to run the ball in third and long. So we feel good about it.
How much do you emphasize sacks on the defense, aside from affecting the quarterback with the ball coming at us?
The head coach might not want to hear this, but we emphasize it a lot. That's pretty much our job on third down. We're going to play the run. And I told Warner this when he first came in, DJ. Everybody can rush the passer. Can you rush the passer and play the run? He showed he can play the run. Now let's go rush the passer and play the run.
What's the key to not over pursuing, just not running upfield, making sure you keep contained, but also keep your eye inside?
Yeah, that's a lot of it is film study. Some of the things I've been working with the guys on, just film study. Tendencies. Third and long, second and long, screen draw. Some of the things a lot of guys take for granted. Just trying to teach them the game. We to the point now where we're reading offensive lineman stances. So let's see the stance. Let's notice a run stance versus a pass stance. So just working on the keys and staying within the system.
How many? Is there a percentage of teams that you guys play that have like tells or like they tip their pitches? Pardon the expression.
Well, there's some teams out there. I would be a fool right now if I told you that, though. And I'm sure they're watching now, probably listening. But yeah, it's tendencies, and everybody have their tendencies. You look, you go down the roster or the schedule. Me, I like to look at a coordinator. When I played, I I patted myself. This coordinator, he may go to a different team, but he's still going to do the same thing. That's pretty much the same way as in college.
Anything about the way you played the game when you played scare you, or worry you now with the CTE stuff that you think, I hope I didn't, or, you know, we weren't necessarily doing things the smartest way, or do you feel comfortable with it?
I blessed a lot of people over my career. I wouldn't take it back at all. I blessed a lot of people, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? I helped a lot of people along my way. So, you know, if I'm a guy that was CTE or whatever, so be it. You know,
wish you knew then what you know.
I do wish I knew then, but would I change anything? I probably wouldn't. You know, like I said, you know, it was an opportunity for me. My mom's comfortable now. Dad's comfortable. Grandma, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't change it.
That's Gamecocks offensive or outside linebacker, defensive ends, and Bucks coach Mike Peterson. He also went on to say, Corn, a piece that we didn't air, but you can see online at SportsTalkSC.com, that he doesn't feel like he'd be able to play with the new NFL helmet rules, which are a lot more restrictive than the collegiate rules, it seems. And I found that intriguing because of the fact that you know, despite all that we know now about the head injuries and the CTE, he has no regrets.
No. And that's a big man to say what he said. I mean, no regrets. Happy to help out members of his family. He made millions of dollars in the NFL. He obviously shared it with those closest to him. So you know what, you tip your hat to a guy like that, and you hope for the best. You hope that he doesn't have any down the road effects from his football days, because he was a rough and tough guy both in college and in the NFL. So yeah, I admire somebody who takes that kind of approach. And you know, you can't play scared, you can't coach scared either. And so that's kind of his approach to what he's doing in South Carolina, and that was his approach to how he played the game when he was on the field.
Are you telling me that Gene Sapakoff thinks that the Tigers can win it all with Chase Bryce at quarterback?
Well, that's what the headline says. Our buddy at the Post and Courier's got a story out.
Gino.
The headline basically saying that
Gino's huffing paint now in the upstate. Is that what's happening?
I don't know. It's Clemson can win it all with Chase Bryce at quarterback. I think, I haven't read it, but my guess is what he's pointing out is they're so good everywhere that even with the number 3 quarterback,
I've been saying that.
Beat everybody on their schedule.
I've been saying that. I've been saying that all fall and summer. I've been saying that whole same thing. I said they could go out and.
But you're not Gene Sapakoff.
I'm not.
And, when he says it, people listen.
Apparently.
But I've also been here saying that it seems that every time Alabama wins the championship, I don't think at some point they had the best quarterback on the field, which tells you that the lines of scrimmage still rule out in a lot of cases.
Well, I mean, listen, you still got to have high performance at quarterback. I don't care if you're great everywhere else. If you're not getting good quarterback play, it's going to affect you across the board. And everything Dabo has said about Chase Bryce has been he's had a very good camp, and they feel very good about him. But, you know, I got a feeling for that kid, if he ever wants to be a starter somewhere on a regular basis, he's going to have to go somewhere else, because, I mean, that position is going to be locked down for the next 4 years at least. This year with either Bryant or Lawrence, and then the next 3 years with Lawrence, I would imagine.
So you're saying that Tyson Pumachan can't beat Trevor Lawrence?
I have my doubts. I have my doubts. And the guy that they're recruiting out in California, Ukulele, is supposedly
Ukulele. Not ukulele. You're not recruiting a guitar, Cord. Come on,
anyway,
man.
He's supposed to be the next generational quarterback. And if they get him, you know, it's just going to keep this. I'm telling you, Clemson is here to stay.
I'm waiting
generational after generation after generation.
I'm waiting for the DeCarrion Joyner versus Ryan Helinski quarterback battle. That's what I'm waiting for next year.
Well, I mean, listen, they're both Elite 11 quarterbacks. I think DeCarrion Joyner's got to step up and say, hey, I'm here too, and this is what I can do. And they got to find a way to use him. Don't waste that talent.
Somehow, if I'm West Virginia's coach, I'm just seeing which quarterback leaves Clemson to South Carolina in the next few years, and I'll have him transferred, just like what Greer transferred from Florida.
Yeah. All right, guys, enjoyed it. Enjoyed the conversation. Good stuff tonight. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the guests. Thanks to Will and Pro and Brian. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.